Well, welcome everyone to Race Face TV. We're glad you're with us tonight. My name is Rod Wortham. I'm going to be your host. My co-host is Tom Baker, is up in Mooresville, North Carolina, and we're going to be going up there because he's got a special guest. Zack St. Onge is going to be with us. But before we do that, we're going to go to our Race Face brand development driver update. But we're going to start off with young Adam Lemke, who was racing in the USAC HPD Dirt Midgets at Kern County Raceway Friday night, where qualifying didn't go as planned. Adam said the car just wasn't running great when the team brought the car back to the pits to fix an issue and found a rock stuck under the gas pedal. Adam placed second in the heat and in the main event started ninth and worked the car up to the second place, but after a late caution, he said the track just went away and Adam ended up with a sixth place finish in the main event. Up next, the last dirt race in the USAC Western Dirt Series at Merced Speedway, August the 26th. Now we're going to go up north to Wisconsin to Sam Mayer. He was back in the legend car at Dells Raceway Park, where Sam won his heat race and brought home a fourth place finish in the feature. Sam had to start eighth due to the invert, and surprisingly enough, the race went caution-free, all green flag laps, and it was hard to get the car back up to the front. But overall, another good night of racing for the young 14-year-old. Up next for Sam, late models from Hickory Motor Speedway. That should really be interesting. Well, now let's go back out west and see what was happening with Jesse Love, because he was also at the dirt track at Kern County Raceway in the USAC Dirt Midgets, where he won his heat race. On to the feature where the field was again inverted. Jesse was running second for most of the race when a restart incident required an infield equipment check. Jesse had to tag the rear but worked his way back up to fourth. Up next for Jesse, the Junior Late Model Series from Madera Speedway on August the 26th. Well, now we're going to go back to the Midwest where we find Sheldon Creed as he brings home a fourth place finish in the ARCA Hers Potato Chip 100 from the mile dirt track at the Springfield, Illinois State Fairgrounds. Up next for Sheldon, double duty. The NASCAR Xfinity and Trans Ams from Road America at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and that's on August the 27th. Now, Ryan had the weekend off and is preparing his late model for a return to Madera Speedway on September the 2nd. Now, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be back with a special guest who happened to stop into the studio this week, and we're going to spend some time with Dr. Bethany Dixon with Drivers Health Clinic. We'll be right back. Welcome to Race Face Brand Development. You might be asking, what is Race Face Brand Development? We are all about helping young drivers get noticed while creating a brand. If your branding isn't part of your strategy and you're looking for a competitive advantage in the marketplace, I encourage you to reach out to us at Race Face Brand Development and let us provide you a free consultation on how we can help further your driver's career. Welcome back, everyone. And as I said right before we went to commercial break, we had a special guest that stopped in the studio earlier this week. So we did a little segment with Dr. Bethany Dixon. Let's take a look at that. We've got a very, very special guest with us today, Dr. Dixon from the Drivers Health Clinic. And she's here to share some valuable information for drivers on how you can become more fit. As we've talked about before, as you start to climb up those ladders and you start going from those 10-lap sprint races to the 25 laps and then into the 50 laps and then into the 100 laps or even more in some cases, you really need to start to pay attention to your health. Because again, not only from a physical standpoint, but it's also going to give you that mental standpoint. So Dr. Dixon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great. So I'm just going to kind of let you share some pointers. We've got a big variety of ages of different drivers that actually watch our show, anywhere from 6 years old up to 19 and 20, and then a lot of parents that actually watch the show. So we just really appreciate some great valuable tips that they could use to get themselves in better shape and be healthier.
Well, thanks. You're never too young to start with a healthy diet and making sure that what you're putting in your body is reflecting out there on the track. You don't want to feed your body full of junk and then you'll be sluggish in every aspect of your life. So what you eat, you are what you eat.
Well, we've heard that before, and we see it and we hear it from a lot of the big drivers. I mean, it was crazy this last weekend. I guess Jimmy Johnson had some bad things go on during qualifying, and he wrecked his primary car, and the crew was actually working on the backup car. So what do you think that Jimmy did?
Well, Jimmy always concentrates on health, period.
Well, he did, but you know what he did that day? He got on his bike and
Right.
he went out and rode 125 miles.
Absolutely.
Well, let me tell you what, unless you are in really good mental and physical shape, you're going to be wiped out. I couldn't even think about riding a bike for 5 hours or 5 miles and then getting inside a race car and racing for 400 miles, but that's what he did.
Absolutely. He just not too long ago published an article in Sports Illustrated talking about the importance of exercise and diet. And in that, he was talking about key things like hydration. He had said that he loses 6 to 7 liters of fluid when on that racetrack, and how important it is to replenish that. With those fluids, you want to replenish the electrolytes as well. And so he had talked about how he is sponsored by a company that, he's sponsored by Gatorade. But that can be done by a number of things. Coconut water is phenomenal. It's full of magnesium and potassium and some carbohydrates that'll help refuel that body. There's other ways to do that, though. If you just drink water all day, you're going to miss out on those electrolytes. And those electrolytes are key. So what's an electrolyte? Basically, it's potassium, magnesium, and sodium. Sodium is key, and a lot of people don't realize at that point salt is important. So he actually had mentioned that he was tested and was considered a salty sweater. And so they actually tested the fluid on his arm to see how much he was putting out while sweating. So he personally, and I don't recommend everybody do this, but he personally was adding extra sodium in it because he is a salty sweater.
Right.
So, you need to know your body in those cases. And when you rehydrate with those electrolytes, you're going to feel so much better. So without those, you end up with the nausea. That's when the nausea kicks in, the lightheadedness, the muscle aches. And if you don't replenish those electrolytes with the fluids, you're never going to get back to where you need to be.
Well, that's very interesting. And, one of the other things too, besides the nutrition aspect of things, what could a driver do to actually, do some stretching exercises? Are there anything that they could do prior to a race that might be able to give them, again, a little bit of a competitive edge? I mean, we talk about all the time as we're out there running laps and we're qualifying. I mean, in some of these cases, these drivers are within a tenth of each other. I've seen races won by, a thousandth of a second, and which is a blink of an eye. And again, at the end of a race, if you are more alert, if you have more stamina, and I could just imagine, and I did a little racing myself, and I would get leg cramps.
Sure.
And you know what? The last thing you want to do is get a leg cramp, because what's the first thing that you want to do? For me, it's kind of like stretch my leg out.
Right.
Well, depending on which leg it is, I'm either hitting the accelerator probably when I'm not supposed to, or I just slammed on the brakes and whoever was behind me is going, this is not going to be good.
Sure. Stretching is key, but you want to make sure you stretch before and after. So you want those muscles to get warmed up. You want blood in those muscles. You want oxygen in those muscles so that they can perform to the top of their ability. And think about the ones that you're using a lot. You're using your arms. So you need to make sure that when you've clenched up those arms all day, that you've stretched them prior. So some simple stretches to get the extensors and the flexors, or those forearms, moving is key. It's because you're doing this all day. So just pull gently. You want to feel the stretch down here. You don't want to hurt yourself, but you want to pull on that. 5-6 seconds. You can do it a couple times before you get in. And then this way, and you want to feel it on the top as well. Some other stretches, get moving, down through here. It is best to actually establish a great stretching routine so that you don't even have to think about it. It's second nature. You know before you're getting in that car exactly what you're going to do. Another key one that a lot of people don't think about is when you're in that race car, you beat up your neck all day long and they don't even think about it. You've got that helmet on, you've got the harness around, and your neck is just hitting there holding up this bobblehead. So this stretch is key. So you want to go and gently pull on your head, and you feel it here, but there's a part a lot of people forget. And if you turn your head from here just slightly, you can feel the stretch in the back. And if you turn it up, you can feel it on the side. When you get all of those muscles, it's going to release that tension through here. And when you get out of the race car, where's the tension? A lot of times it's right here. So you want to release that before, get out of the race car, do it again. Definitely help your recovery time and help you while you're in the car as well.
Well, that's awesome information. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this little segment. And I can tell you this, we're probably going to have her back again. And for those of you that are participating in Raceface University, you're going to see some amazing stuff from her inside the university. So anyway, Dr. Dixon, thank you so much for being with us today. We've got maybe about 1 minute. Is there one last little bit of information that you'd like to share with the viewing audience before we got to go?
If you're looking at a diet, anti-inflammatory is the way to go. And if you need to find me, I'm at the Drivers Health Clinic at drivershealthclinic.com. Also on Facebook, you can find me at Drivers Health Clinic. And you can always pick up a phone. I'm happy to answer some questions. 352-643-1034.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Everybody, thank you for tuning into this section. We're going to be right back in just a couple of minutes.
Ever need a doctor after hours? Well, searching won't help. But what do? You could go to the urgent care or ER, but if only there was a better way. Introducing the MNO Plus card. No waiting rooms, no copay, no consultation fee, giving you 24/7 access to a doctor by phone or online. It's easy to get started with affordable plans starting at $15 a month for a family of 5. For more information, visit mnoplus.com today.
We have a simple mission: build champions. And we do this by offering you the opportunity to learn from some of the top individuals in the motorsports industry. And parents, this course is not just for young drivers, but for you as well. Our 8-week online course will cover marketing and branding, how to build a fan base, how to use social media effectively, how to master the media, and much, much more. So if you are looking for a competitive advantage, then Raceface University is for you. We look forward to making you one of our future champions. Welcome back, everyone. It's now time to go up to Mooresville, North Carolina with my co-host, Tom Baker, who has a racer in from the West Coast. We wanted to catch him before he went back out west. Let's go spend a little bit of time with Tom Baker and Zack St. Onge.
Thanks, Rod. And with me is Zack St. Onge, a West Coast late model racer, a young driver trying to move up the ranks, who is from Upland, California. And Zack, good to have you on Raceface TV. First of all, for those who aren't familiar with you, talk a little bit about your background.
I come from quarter midgets. I started when I was 9 years old. Then I moved to bandos and did that for a couple of years. And then at the age of 13, I tested in the Southwest Tour Truck. And then rookie year, I got Rookie of the Year and 6th in points. I couldn't run for the championship because I was too young to run at the half-mile tracks.
Wow. How old were you at the time when you were?
I was 13 for when I ran for Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
And then the year after, I was old enough to run the half miles, and then we won 6 out of the 11 races and top 3'd every single race.
Nice. Okay, so a strong first year in the Southwest Tour Truck Series at 13 years old, and then last year you came back and were able to run the full season.
Yeah, we ran the full season, had a good outing. The truck was always quick, and now this year we're running late models full year. We ran up in Havasu, finished second in the championship for the first season ever in late model. Had 2 wins, and then now we're 1 win at Orange Show this year, and we're running second in points for the championship with 2 or 3 races left.
Going through from a quarter midget to a bandolero to a truck, talk about the transition from each of those things, because obviously the truck's so much different from a bandolero, and yet the bando also different from the quarter midget you started in.
Yeah, quarter midgets were, they teach you to lean out the side and everything, and you're only
Really
looking,
bad habit, by the way.
terrible. You're only looking at the left front tire, and you're just holding the wheel at one angle the entire time. And then bandos, you're in the middle of the car again, so your spatial awareness isn't super up there because you're sitting in the middle of the car. And then from the truck, full size car, and you're sitting on the left side. So when you first get from bandos to trucks, you kind of got to get used to that extra half a car you have on the other side of you. But the learning curve was, it took me not a super long time, just because a lot of the tracks that the trucks raced at, I'd raced a bando at. For instance, the first race was at Blythe Speedway, which sadly closed down, and I was able to run third there after battling a lot of stuff. But the transition helped me, just because in the bando there's no front suspension or anything, so you get a real feel for the track. So I was able to pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah, so the bando, I always kind of think about the bando as a Reese's car, who put the chocolate in my peanut butter kind of thing. It's like a go-kart smashed into a race car. Yeah. And that's what they ended up with. It's a fun car to watch. And I would think probably in the context of the racing itself, probably a pretty fun car to drive, but I don't think there's a lot that's translatable from that, honestly, as you move on, except if you go to Legends and you can run the same tracks, but still it's a much different line and much different driving style, right?
The thing that taught me the most from bandos is the smoothness on the wheel.
Right.
Getting around the track and carrying a lot of momentum, just because of the way the car is. There's not a lot of horsepower, so when it comes to being fast, you have to carry tons of momentum. So that's helped me at tracks like Irwindale and Vegas, especially. That's a really fun track that I'm do very well at, and so that's the 2 things that just kind of really helped. The smoothness that has helped me in my racing is, people always make fun of me because my qualifying laps don't look very fast, but I'm just being smooth, so I end up doing all right. But that all comes from bandos and quarter midgets.
Well, also it comes from good driving technique, because smooth is fast, right? I mean, you're always going the fastest when you feel like you're going the slowest, it seems like.
Yeah, it's one of those things. The K&N West driver, Chris Eggleston, he always talks about how on short tracks, rolling through the center is the most important part, and he's right, because as soon as you get through the center, and the more power you can put down, the better you'll be doing. So it's not like some of the guys where they come off the turn, mash the throttle, and spin their tires, where that only lasts for 10 laps in a race. So it always comes down to the last 10 laps is when you have to have tires on the car. So
and so now we go and we win the Southwest Tour Truck Championship last year at 14, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's time to go late model racing. You make the step into late models late in the year and start right off over the fall and winter at Havasu 95 and go out and get a couple of wins almost right off the bat.
Yeah. That track's so fun. They just repaved it too, so I'm excited for this year to go back. But it's great racing there, and that was a track that kind of suited me, just because of the smooth driving style you have to have there. The track was so slippery and coarse from the hot summers in the Arizona desert, to where it was a track where you're not even getting half throttle on a late model.
Oh wow!
So you have to really nurse it around the track, and the more momentum you can get and stuff like that just all kind of carries over. So that track had really catered to what I had learned in the past.
Your natural driving style that you developed. Yeah, that's so. And then from there, obviously, the season's starting off for you on one of the coolest bull rings in California, I would think. Orange Show, quarter mile, really just trying to figure that whole thing out. You struggled a little bit in the beginning, and you were talking to us actually last night on the Stock Car Show on Performance Motorsports Network about this. Talk a little bit about the transition to Orange Show and what you felt like you had to go through in order to get to the point where you finally got a race win here a few weeks ago.
For us, it was a big transition from, Havasu had, day races just because it was a winter series, so it'd be so cold at night. They ran during the day, and so usually what you practice on in the morning is what you have to race on. So for us, the transition to Orange Show was that it's night racing, and back in California during the summer, 110-degree weather during the day. So we really had to, you have to work on two setups pretty much during the days. You have to work on your qualifying, what you want to be in qualifying, and then you have to be ready for the nighttime when the track's going to tighten up and not be so slick. So for us, it was really just kind of fine tuning our setup. We started outside the top 5 the first race, then worked our way in, and now we're, top 3s almost every race. So it was just a lot of, fine tuning what the car should be for every race.
And Orange Show has kind of a different qualifying format to begin with, right?
Yeah, we Orange Show runs, where you qualify and your heat races determine where you start in the main and invert and everything. So it's unique there just because it's not like the regular cookie cutter where you kind of go out and where you start is where
you
qualify
time trial and then start the feature. You've got heat races and they do a different sort of like a lottery draw or something, I think, for the heats.
Yeah, they switch it up every once in a while where you'll draw for your start on the heat or your draw for your start in the main, which it's cool because it always, you're not always expecting the same thing most of the time. But it's cool to go out and have something a little bit different every time.
Talk a little bit about, again, your transition then from Orange Show, now getting a chance to go and run someone's late model at Irwindale, where, of course, you've got the truck about down pat. We know that. But, what's it been like going and trying to adjust to that track in the late model?
In the late model, Irwindale is such a different beast because it doesn't race like a super big track, so you have to slow down in the turns and really finesse around the turns and around the whole track, but you carry so much speed compared to like Orange Show where you go full speed down the straightaway and then blow it down in the turns. So it's just different driving styles and different racers, you have to really know who you're racing around in a late model division.
Seems like the competition at Irwindale is just so stiff too.
Yeah. It's always so close there. And people always have to come from the back. And like our last race, we had a problem in qualifying, so we had to pull off, and they did impound. So we started in the back, raced up to mid pack 13th from 23rd.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
It was some hard work, but yeah, it's competition. There's always so great. That's one of the great things about that track that I'm going to miss is that, everyone's always really close. It's always great racing.
So yeah, you brought up kind of the elephant in the room, right? When it comes to what's happening in the California racing scene these days, getting announced a week or so ago that Irwindale is closing its doors for good at the end of the 2017 season. Talk a little bit about what that is like for you as a driver from the West Coast who races there, obviously. From your perspective, what do you make of all of that?
It's pretty tragic, that I started racing bandos there when I was younger. That was actually
where you were racing.
My first, or one of the first tracks I raced at in the bando, where I kind of learned. And my dream was always to race a late model there or higher division there. And I finally got to do it this year, luckily. And hopefully when it closes down, hopefully it won't have to. Someone will step up and something can get done about it. But the way it's looking now, they'll be done. And hopefully there's just the guys that have cars that will disperse, to other short tracks we have around California and the whole West Coast. Just because, the car count's so important out there. Just because, we don't quite have the numbers that they have out here or other places. So it's important for us to, get the car count at other tracks.
Well, it's probably going to be interesting for a lot of those drivers too, if they're going to make the adjustment to some of the other tracks, because somebody coming from Irwindale, for example, and deciding, hey, I'll just go run Orange Show. Yeah. You're going from that mile to the quarter, which is the inverse of what you had to adjust to. So for somebody who's been running Irwindale for years and has developed that programming, and that's their natural driving style, now is going to have a huge adjustment to make going down to the quarter mile. So it's going to kind of scramble if you're doing power rankings of racers in California in 18, it might look a little different than it has for the last few years, right?
Yeah, it'll be a little different. It takes time to get used to the aggressiveness that the drivers of the short tracks bring, especially at Orange Show. Those guys will thrive for every position, even if it's
Sure.
even if it's last place.
Yeah.
They're going to fight for it, and that's the thing I love about the short track racing is that
Pride.
It's so it's so they want everything they can,
Yeah.
which is great. That's how racing is. But yeah, it's a little bit of a curve to get from the the conservative type of thing you have to run at Irwindale to where you can run just shorter races in 50 laps. You got to get to places.
A little bit of rubbing.
Yeah,
Rubbin's racing. You get on the bull ring and the bumper's kind of part of it,
yeah,
right?
the chrome horn.
Yeah, chrome horn. Exactly. You go to Irwindale, and it's a little more about finesse and speed and patience and all of that because it's a bigger track and obviously
multiple grooves.
Yeah, different driving style there. But the net effect of that loss, if in fact nobody does step up and do something with it going forward, is obviously that seems to be the bar. It's always seemed to me to be the bar, the standard by which, people talk about California racing. It's always Irwindale and the drivers that have come out of there and, climbed the ladder and gone on to NASCAR national prominence. And, that's just not going to be there.
Yeah. Whatever track will take its place, I don't know. But Irwindale is definitely, the most talked about short track in California. I mean, K&N Modifieds and all those guys go there. So, hopefully some track will embrace every driver in that comes from Irwindale or, whatever, and hopefully they can find a home to race at.
So what do you think is, talk about, first of all, your late model situation at Irwindale. Who are you driving for? How did that come about? And talk about what you think is the missing ingredient, or to say, what is it going to take for you to get to a point where you can get that win in the late model before the season ends there?
Clay Wooster, thanks to him, he's been watching me for a while, and I guess he liked my driving style, so he was interested to see what I could do in his cars. And he's always really fast out in Irwindale, and every track he goes to, his car was the one that beat us at Havasu for the championship. So it was awesome to drive for him. My grandpa's known him for a while too, so it's awesome. But we have a couple kinks in setup, just to get me used to the car that I've never driven before. So I have to get used to that and the track too. It's a completely different breed, passing wise and stuff we have to do. So it's a bit of a learning curve on my part just to get used to the different nature of Irwindale and what it is. So hopefully, next race, we've been improving every race. So hopefully we can go out next time and, run top 5 or top 3.
Okay, so you've gone from transitioning from trucks to your own late model at Orange Show, now Irwindale with Clay's car, a couple of races in the truck this year as well, proving that you can go back again, which you've won, by the way, both of them.
Yeah.
What, looking forward, K&N West, obviously the goal, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, our goal for K&N West 2018, we're working as hard as we can to get there. I feel like that's just our next step. It's a great series, especially for young people moving up into the, ARCA and trucks, which is, the place to be. So, we're working to get there for next year, and hopefully we can succeed at it. There's lots of great teams and great equipment out there that, have great drivers and need a great driver to win. So hopefully we can work for that and do good there next year.
When you see a K&N West race, and I know you've gone and you've been able to see a couple this year, from a driving perspective, now what is that going to require of you from an adjustment standpoint that you haven't had experience with the late models and trucks?
They run a lot of bigger tracks. I mean, they run a couple tight quarter-mile bull rings. They even go to Orange Show, which, those tracks will really suit me when they go to bigger tracks like Irwindale, or they even run a couple miles, Phoenix this year, which is, I guess, a talk of something they might do. So it's just going to take learning for me to get to bigger tracks and stuff that I'm not used to, and, the horsepower and the weight and stuff.
Sure.
I've heard that the translation from trucks, Southwest or speed trucks or something like that into K&N is a somewhat decent translation of power and weight. So hopefully that the translation there will be a little bit easier for me to pick it up. But there's lots of things that suit me and lots of things that I need to learn. So
We talk about drivers as being athletes. We were just talking before the show. You've played football for a while now for your school, and now this year deciding just to give it up for really for safety purposes, not wanting to get hurt in football and have it affect your racing. But how has that training affected you as far as being a driver? I'm sure for you it's kept you in great shape, but talk a little bit about what you've gotten out of that athleticism that's translated to being effective on the racetrack.
The fitness level of football is great, especially my school too, Altaloma. The coaching staff there is really good. So for me, stepping back from football, I have to really put my focus forward in getting in the gym and, getting physical stuff done just so that I don't fall off and lose that advantage that I have in having, good physical shape in racing, because,
sure,
you have to have that edge
right.
in order. You have to last all the laps you're in there. So, and the thing too is that stepping back from football, I can more cater my physicalness to, more towards racing. I can do more things conditioning wise and stuff that kind of suit me there instead of for just football. So
more of the specialized training that drivers need to have. Yeah. So get the mountain bike and, learn to keep up with Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Even his own teammates say that could be a struggle. But obviously very athletically inclined, and I'm sure that's helped you on the track. Okay. So we know that no race driver does it by himself. There's been a lot of people that have played parts in helping you to get to where you are. So who helps make it happen for Zack St. Onge?
Most often I think my dad, he's helped me, my whole career. He bought my quarter midget and everything. And he's a really big influence on where my career goes and helps me a lot. And, my stepmom, my family, I have my fan zone at every track, they come out and watch. It's really great. My grandparents, my grandpa Danny, he helps us with the late model. He's really helped me get to where we are right now. So it's just my friends and family and everyone that's helped me get there. And, Tom helps me, coach and stuff like that too. So there's tons of people, and I'm truly blessed to be able to where I am.
Well, Rod, Zack, certainly a driver to keep an eye on, one of several talented West Coast racers that are looking to make a transition next year up to the K&M Pro Series West level. So we'll throw it back to you in the studio in Florida, and we'll look forward to talking to you again on next week's Race Face TV show.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Tom and Zack. And Zack, make sure you have a safe trip back out west. Well, that's just about it for us tonight, but we still want to cover one thing. Make sure to go to racefaceuniversity.com. We've started enrollment for our August 1st class. Again, racefaceuniversity.com, where we've got an 8-week online course. So if you're a young racer out there and you want to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and be able to go out and get sponsorship in a professional manner, then Raceface University is just what the doctor ordered. Also, make sure to like us on our Facebook page at Raceface TV. And we want to invite you back here next week, as we're going to have a very, very special guest, but we're going to let you know about that a little bit later in the week. So everybody go out, make sure as always to go out and support your local track, and we'll see you back here next week on Raceface TV. Have a great evening.